Peggy and I had been asked to lead a Sunday school class on the Sunday morning of this lay renewal. And we went into this class, and the first thing we noticed was that the leader of the class was probably somebody, he was a man in his 70s. His name was Olin Ellis. And Olin was a neat guy, just excited about his faith. In fact, it was because of his prayers and his desire to see this renewal event that this event had taken place in this church. But we went into this class, and the first thing I did a double take, because I looked at this class, and as I looked around, there were about 30 people in this class, and not one of them was over the age of 35. And this was totally different than the rest of the church. The rest of the church was a whole group of white hairs. And as I watched this class kind of develop, the people would come in the class, they'd walk in the class, and they'd go over and they'd give Olin a hug, and they'd go sit down in their seats. Well, we led the class, and I can't really even remember the subject that particular morning, but after the class was over, I went up to Olin and I said, Olin, to help me with this difference between this class and the rest of the church in terms of age. And I said, where did these people come from? Well, Olin said, well, you know, he says, I walk in the park every day. And I said, well, that's nice, Olin, but to answer my question. He said, well, no, that's where they came from. He says, I walk in the park every day. And when I walk in the park, a lot of young people are running and walking in the park. And he says, as a young person goes by, he says, hey, can I talk to you a minute? And you know, the interesting thing is that if you ever notice that when an older person says something like that to a younger person, they pay attention. And he says, when I do that, they'll come over, and he said, do you go to church? And he says, most of them don't go to church. He said, if they go to church, he said, hey, God bless you, great, you know. But if they don't go to church, he said, what I say to them is that, hey, would you come to my Sunday school class? And that's where these people came from. There were 30, 40 people in that class, and most of them had never been in church before, but because this individual was bold enough to just to say, hey, would you come to my Sunday school class? They came, and he'd made a difference in their life. And so that's one of the most memorable things about lay renewal. And the reason is that here was one layman who was being faithful to what God had called him to do, and he wasn't afraid to be proud of his faith and to invite others to join him in that faith experience.